had this, so I decided to do this. It was a very adventurous thing to leave my family and a job I loved and the city that was really mine in a way.
And you were coming to an environment where there were no other female
No, I was the first
professor?
woman. I was the first woman hired at Stanford
And
on
that
the
was
regular
what-
tenure track.
And what year was that?
This was 1972, and I remembered that early, and I came and I taught this course, Women in the Law, and I also with Eleanor Norton and Anne Friedman, who now teaches at Rutgers Camden, and Susan Ross, who now teaches at Georgetown, but they weren't in law school academia yet, but we put out this book on sex discrimination, and that's one of the first things I did while I was here. And
But this book was no little thing.
no,
I mean,
huge thing, because it wasn't, there weren't other books in the field, and a lot of people weren't sure it was a field at that point. See,
You made it a field, clearly.
we did, yeah.
And how long did it take to write this book?
Well, it was about 3 or 4 or 5 years, and so it was difficult because everybody else had full-time jobs, and except me, and I was just starting off in academia, and then also we had this I taught this clinical course where people spent a whole semester of law school in this clinical course, which we called Litigative Strategies Against Sex Discrimination, and we got it funded by Carnegie Foundation, which an old friend of mine, law school classmate, Eli Evans, was an officer there, and so they funded it, and we set up this law firm that's still going today, Equal Rights Advocates, and
In San Francisco.
in San Francisco. And we had this great model. It really was cool, in which the law students worked with the law firm on their actual cases, and then we simulated one of the actual cases. So the law students would write and argue motions for summary judgment in the actual case, and then the work of the law students on the simulation would be built back into the actual case. But we would get the clients, who were sort of cause-oriented also to come in and play themselves in role plays where the students would practice interviewing, and we would videotape them and critique them. I mean, it was very elaborate, and the lawyers at Equal Rights Advocates, which were Nancy Davis and Wendy Williams and Mary Dunlap, and they were also teaching with me in the course. So we had this elaborate, costly, wonderful kind of setup. So I did that at the same time I was teaching civil procedure was my basic course, because the only thing I really knew was criminal procedure. But Tony Amsterdam, who was this famous, great criminal procedure teacher, was teaching here, and early on people said, don't even try to offer a course, nobody will take it. So I got into civil procedure, which I actually grew to like.
Well, you've written a book.
And wrote a book in civil procedure also, a textbook.
Now, at some point, though, you're back in D.C., right?
After I had been here about 5 or 6 years, the semester, then Carter was elected, and Carter had said that he was going to appoint women to these sub-cabinet positions, and he set up a commission. I forget what it was called. Maybe it was just a transition team, but anyway, and they just looked for people, women. They looked for women to appoint. And so I went back to Washington and interviewed for all these jobs, and of course the job that I wanted was to be the first woman Solicitor General. There's never been a woman Solicitor General to this day, and that was the job I dreamed of, but that had already been filled, and
with a man.
with a man, but a black man, Wade McCree, who was a judge on the Sixth Circuit. And